Yes, I played Marvel Rivals, just as pretty much every other Overwatch content creator has at this point, so I thought I'd give my own personal review on the game. And I'll be sure to focus on both the positives and the negatives as an Overwatch player, and this will probably be the only video I make about this game, unless this video gets a crazy amount of support. But with that being said, let's just get right into it. Starting with what's probably the most important part of a game, and that's the gameplay. As someone who's played a lot of other hero-based games, it's clear to see a lot of similarities and inspirations and abilities, but I really don't think this is a bad thing at all, and in fact, I think this is actually really good because they took inspiration from what they know works and added their own twist to it, which is honestly a really good idea. Like if you look at Psylocke, she plays a lot like Genji, or even Squirrel Girl being similar to Junkrat, but with 33 characters at launch, that's a pretty sizable roster for the start of the game, and it makes me wonder how often we will get characters. Since we have so much already, I could see them taking big gaps between releases, or release them often to keep excitement for the game flowing, since Marvel does kind of have infinite characters. But each character definitely feels really unique with their own strengths and weaknesses, and make most of them pretty fun to play too. But they also have a lot of innovative features as well, with my personal favorite being the team up abilities, because you can actually interact with different characters directly and do different combos depending on who you are playing, which honestly I'm a huge fan of. Like, who doesn't want to ride on Groot's shoulders as Rocket Raccoon? But it definitely adds a layer of depth to the characters and the game, because you can come up with a lot of different strategies with these team ups, because there are a lot of them. But I honestly really enjoyed the variety of melee characters as well, which I know is probably a hot take, but characters like Black Panther and Iron Fist are really fun to me. But instead of just a ton of hitscan heralds running around the map, which we've seen countless times in other games, I'm really glad we got all these melee characters, because I think this is much better for the game. But even with a universe as vast as Marvel's, I think if you had to give everybody a gun, it would be pretty difficult to add characters such as Venom, and could possibly lock a lot of these characters out of the game. But melee or not, each character feels really polished and well designed, which is surprising for the launch of the game, and you can tell that they worked really hard on this. But what really surprised me for the launch of the game is the fact that there was no server issues at all, with almost 500,000 people playing it. I didn't experience a single server issue, which is honestly kind of nuts, so I gotta give big props to them there. But before we move away from the characters and the gameplay, I just thought I would say my personal favorite characters from each role so far, that being Venom, Iron Fist, and Luna Snow. Moving on to the maps, there are only a total of 8 maps with 3 different modes, which is honestly kind of disappointing, as you can literally get the same map twice in a row. Hell, I even got this Black Panther map 3 times in a row, which kind of drove me insane. But even if there are only 8 different maps in the game, I would at least like to see them fix this, because with Overwatch, this doesn't happen at all. Granted that they have a larger map selection, but I'm still pretty sure that there's a system in place to make sure that this doesn't happen, because my whole time playing Overwatch, this literally has never happened to me a single time. But with such a gigantic number of characters at launch, only 8 maps seems like a low number to me, and I would have at least liked to see a few more. But these maps are still really high quality, as they're super unique and cool, but I really like the fact that these maps have trailers and animations that really add to the atmosphere and personality of them. And I'm also a huge fan of the fact that the maps are partially destructible, as this adds a lot to the gameplay and the immersion, but I'm really hoping that they add more maps as soon as possible. But for the character designs, I gotta say these are insanely good. Each character has a ton of energy, and I'm no Marvel nerd at all in the slightest, but I still find a ton of these characters really cool looking at them for the first time. But look at Jeff. I don't even know where he came from, but who doesn't love Jeff? But from someone as iconic as Spider-Man all the way to Squirrel Girl, there's a character for everyone, which I know some games, Concord, really struggled with, but I am in love with the art style for this game, and I'm really glad they didn't choose a realistic style of visuals, because this really adds to the charm of the game and helps keep it simple and playful, which helps each character stand out even more. And I always prefer when a game chooses stylized graphics over realistic. And as far as monetization goes, it's pretty much the same as every other free-to-play game nowadays, with a few differences, with one of the major things being the fact that you can continue to progress through a battle pass even after the season is over. which is honestly something I think more games should do, including Overwatch, because I only know about a handful that actually do this. And another thing about the monetization that kind of baffles me a little bit is how much more expensive the MCU bundles are. Like, yeah, I get it, the MCU, of course it's gonna cost more, but for some of these epic skins, it isn't the biggest deal. But look at this legendary Spider-Man skin. Why would you pay $26 for this to have a slightly different Spider-Man when you could instead just buy an epic skin and have a bag over your head and look completely different? Unless you're a really big fan of the MCU movie, I don't see why you would do this, because it's twice as expensive as the other one, which literally changes way less too. But I gotta give kudos to them for giving every character to everybody for free immediately, and not attempting to lock characters behind the battle pass like Overwatch tried to do in the past, and also not making you grind for the characters like Apex makes you do. But other than that, there's nothing too crazy going on with the monetization here. And I really hope if this game is successful, more games adopt the feature of being able to keep progressing through your battle pass even after a season ends, because this should honestly have been a thing already. But on the topic of this game being successful, we have all seen countless times of games coming out claiming to be X killer of game, or just having a massive release and then dropping off heavily, as just recently X Defiant announced they're shutting down later next year. And then there's games like Multiverses, which had a huge beta launch, but when the time came to fully release the game, it flopped pretty heavily. But 500,000 players on launch is absolutely massive. Even if this is the trend that most popular game releases follow nowadays, this is still a massive feat and a huge launch. But a really important thing to keep in mind is these player counts are guaranteed to not last forever, so if they start going down, I wouldn't be concerned right away. But if they start dropping down to Concord levels of players, yeah, you might want to start getting a little bit scared. But we also gotta hope they don't pull like a Helldivers incident and just do something really bad to hurt the community and then never be able to recover from it, because that would also suck. But although Rivals has to compete against a game like Overwatch, I really hope the future of this game is successful and we don't end up with an X Defiant situation. But the big question as an Overwatch player, do I think Rivals will kill Overwatch? No, that's pretty much impossible. I could be wrong since the game is shrouded completely in hatred, but there are still a lot of people who love the game, so I don't see Overwatch going anytime soon. But instead, I would like to see both compete against each other and constantly trying to improve to be better than one another, so players of both can enjoy a better experience regardless of which game that they play. But before I give my final rating on this game, I just have a few nitpicks that I have to get out of the way. This game is in desperate need of a role queue. Of course, they can still keep open queue for the people who enjoy it, but they definitely need to give people the option for role queue, because it just gets so annoying when you don't have a healer or a tank on your team, especially when you consider that there are only 7 strategists and 8 vanguards in the game compared to the 18 duelists. So I definitely would have liked to see this number evened out a little bit more, but this is genuinely one of the biggest problems in the game for me. And another nitpick I have for the game is a lack of progression. There is individual hero progression, but it isn't too crazy. I do like the custom icon that you get when you fully max it out, but other than that, there's no like individual player leveling or any sort of progression besides the battle pass, which is also something I knock on Overwatch a lot after they added their lackluster player progression system. But I just wish there was a little more of an incentive to play the game as a free-to-play player. And previously, as I mentioned, Iron Fist was my favorite character. Before I played the game, I heard that he could wall run, and I was expecting something like Lucio. Of course, I knew it wasn't going to be as good, but I wasn't expecting this.
Not bad.
Help, friends!
Yeah, it's pretty clunky, and I find that a lot of the wall running and wall climbing abilities are a little clunky to use, and that's just one of the examples that sometimes the game is a little rougher on the edges, so it's not perfect gameplay, but it's still really good. And the last negative thing I have to say about the game is the fact that the UI definitely needs some upgrades. The Heroes tab in the menu screen seems cool at first sight, since if you hover over them, this cool animation plays, but it literally looks straight out of a mobile game. I mean, I like the animations that play when you hover over them, it's just the layout of this is really weird, and the fact that you have to go and click a drop down box in order to choose whatever class you want to look at. And I also think the hero select screen should be tweaked a little bit as well, because I think there is no reason you should have to scroll through them. That is just a little ridiculous. And yeah, I'm aware that this isn't the biggest issue, and I might just seem crazy for complaining about something like this, but it's just the little things that matter to me. But as a non-biased Overwatch 2 player, I think I can confidently give this game an 8 out of 10. with my biggest problem for the game being the lack of maps and the small number of strategists and vanguards, which can simply be fixed with just a few updates, with the core gameplay itself being really fun. Although it is similar to Overwatch, once again, I don't think this is a bad thing since I think that they are both pretty good games. I couldn't give Rivals anything less than an 8 for just how fun the gameplay is. But like I said, this is probably going to be my last Rivals video unless you let me know in the comments how badly you want to see another one and what kind of content you would like to see me make on the game. So make sure you tell me and subscribe, but until next time, just keep on gaming.